Hey everybody, welcome to another Con Support video. This one's on equations with square roots and cube roots. So let's go. All right, so basically when you're working with a cube root or a square root in an equation, you just have to remember, well, I guess a cube or a square in an equation. You should remember that the operation that undoes a square is a square root, and so the operation that undoes a cube is a cube root. So in this particular case, it's pretty easy. So I'm going to grab a little pen here and we'll do it. So the first problem is p to the third power is equal to 125. Now remember, the cardinal rule of solving any equation is whatever you do one side, you got to do the other, right? So if you want to figure out the value of p when p to the third power is equal to 125, basically what you're saying you got to do there is you got to get the value of p all by itself, right? Well, how do you undo to the third power, right? The way you undo this exponent of 3 is that you take the cube root. So what you would do is you would take the cube root of both sides. Let me move myself over a little bit. So you take the cube root of both sides. So you just do the cube root of the left side of our equation and the cube root of the right side of the equation. So that would give us the value of p, because the cube root undoes to the third power, right? Just like the square root undoes to the second power. So this would be p is now equal to the cube root of 125. And the cube root of 125 is what number times itself? 3 times equals 125, which is 5. So the answer here is, that's funny. The answer here is 5. And it says choose all the answers that apply. 3, -3, 6, and -6. None of those. Yeah, that's not right. So I'm just going to say those are all wrong. Let's do the next one, okay? So for the next equation here, it says a squared is equal to 64. So you want to undo to the second power, you take the square root of both sides. So you take the square root of both sides. You're going to get the square root of a squared is just a, right? And then the square root of 64, it really is positive and negative 8. Because 8 times 8 is 64, and the square root is asking what number times itself equals 64. And so when we think about this here, we know that it's going to be a positive and a negative, because positive 8 times positive 8 is 64, and negative 8 times negative is also 64. So you could have 8 that's a positive or 8 that's a negative, and that would be correct. So that's how you do it. It says, which of the following equations has 3 as a possible value of w? Choose all answers that apply. Okay, well, it's saying which one has 3 as an answer for w. Well, this one we don't have to write out over here. This is just test it out, right? So if 3 is w, this is 3 times 3, or 3 squared, which is 9. That's true. And if 3 is w, then this is 3 times 3 times 3, which is b. 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27. So this is also true. So both of those are true. All right, and then for this one, it says find the real solutions of the following equation. X to the third equals 512. So once again, you'd write this out as x to the third power is equal to 512. To undo to the third power, you're going to take the cube root of both sides. So the cube root of x to the third is going to be x, and the cube root of 512 is the answer for x, right? So we're really looking for what is the cube root of 512. So what number times itself? 3 times equals 512. Well, we know that 5 times 5 times 5 is going to be 125, and 6 times 6 times 6 is going to be 36 times 6, which is 180 plus 36, or 216. And 7 times 7 times 7 would be, I think, 343 when you do it out, because it's going to be 49 times 7, and 50 times 7 is 350, and then take away a 7 would be 343. So we're getting closer, right? If we did 8 times 8 times 8, it's definitely not 6, right? We could eliminate 6. It could be 8 or negative 8. Let's try that. So that would be 8 times 8, which is 64, and 64 times 8. Well, that's going to be 8 times 60, which is 480, and 8 times 4, which is 32. So 480 plus 32 is 512. So that's going to be good. So that's 512. So this is going to be 8. And the reason it's not negative 8 is because it's a cube root, right? So if it was a negative 8, that would be negative 8 times negative 8 times negative 8. And when you multiply 3 negatives together, you get a negative answer. So the cube root of negative 512 is going to be negative 8. The cube root of positive 512 is going to be 8. With cube roots, the sign matters. Whatever the sign is on the value inside the root is what the sign is on the root itself. So just be careful with that, right? If it's a square root, you get 2 possibilities, right? Positive and negative. But if it's a cube root, you only get 1 possibility. Whatever that sign is of the interior number, that's going to be what the sign of the answer is. All right, and that's how you do it. Just use the the roots to undo exponents, basically. Okay.